meeting to explain the decision and the process that was used to come to the decision. I know you have provided virtual meetings, but these are very limited in the ability to ask questions in real time as information is provided. Not having to look at your constituents makes it easier for the aldermen to make decisions that will upset a portion of the public. I'm not saying that this plan is not the best way to proceed, but I do have reservations and would like more information. If the aldermen create a special taxing district or similar to pay for this project, then any citizen should not have to pay for any city improvement that does not directly benefit the citizen. Using this logic of simple taxing, the North End Fire Department should be paid for those who it will be serviced, not the entire tax base of the city. This thought process can continue to parks, beach access points, roads, and any other capital project. Thank you. The next item is from Jack Gallagher that resides at 256 Seashore Drive, North Topsail Beach. Madam Mayor, I have a multi-part question regarding the proposed municipal service districts. Since according to the town manager's January 2021 report, a final note on the project funding is expected January board meeting. Upon making the decisions, the town's plan for this project and retirement of the USDA loan, which financed this project for the, financed the already completed Phase 5 beach engineering will have to be presented to the local government commission for review and approval. His questions are, could you state verbally for the record how many actual properties exist in the two sections of the proposed municipal service district? How many properties on the ocean side of the MSD? How many properties on the bay side of the MSD? Dollar-wise, what is the actual tax value of the oceanside properties and average tax value per property? Same for Bayside, actual total tax value, average tax value per property. What is the proposed tax increase percentage for each section? What is the average tax increase in dollars per property, per Oceanside and Bayside? Kindly state for the record. Since it has been estimated that we need $3 million each year to serve this proposed debt, dollar-wise, how much total revenue per year is projected from this proposed tax increase? How long before the other $16 million USDA loan is paid off? Would the proposed tax increase be used for that debt also? Thank you for your response and transparency. Respectfully, Jack Gallagher.
Is that awesome? So the one thing I would like to make sure that we do is the documentation that we have for the federal project, like the latest financial model and things that we're talking through. I just want to make sure they are easy to find on our website. And I'll tell you, I was not on there today. So if they've been placed out there, but I don't know if we could just put a link right from the front somehow. I don't know how easy it is to make changes to it or add it, but maybe Mayor Pro Tem could assist with that. I just want people to be able to see, like Mr. Gallagher does have a lot of good questions. We've heard similar questions from others, and a lot of that is in the financial model and other documents we've pulled together. So as much as we can share with folks, I'd like to make sure we do.
I'll try to get that on tomorrow.
It would be the latest version, version 6 that we are considering now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to move on to the public presentation and hearings section. So what I'd like to do, oh, actually we have Fran first. So do we have Fran?
Yep.
Yes.
Fran, how are you?
Good. How are you, Mayor?
Do you have an update for us?
Yes. The truck haul project. We'll go through the presentation that I supported gave to you.
Yeah, Deb's bringing it up.
Okay. Deb, you can just go to the next page. So just a general overview of the shorelines of phase 1. We have the Army Corps of Engineers project, which they're and as the town manager's report said, they are moving pipes there, and it's Goodloe Marine, and it's a Corps project, but it's in progress, and sand should be pumping here soon. The truck haul for phases 2, 3, and 4 that we were hoping to do this winter. I'm still kind of got my fingers crossed that the environmental review is still ongoing. Based on my conversations with the FEMA, I think that should be finished here within the next couple weeks. And if that could occur, then the project would go out on, FEMA would have to put public notice for 30 days, but it would symbolize some progress to the overall obligation, where the final obligation, where the town can get funding. So I'm hopeful that we can still get that here in the next couple months, where we could still try to truck haul some sand here in March and April. And then can you go to the next slide, Deb, please? So this is just a general overview of the category B, which is the FEMA term for natural beach, and the category G, which is the phase 5 engineered beach, which is a nourished beach. And FEMA actually has a really good process in place for the engineered beach, the category G. They've got a process in place, and it's really fine tuned, and it seems to be a lot faster than the category B, which is being held up right now. For the category G process for Florence, we have that meeting with the CAMA staff and all the other agencies, the Fish and Wildlife Service, National Marine Fisheries Service, Wildlife Resources Commission, all state and federal agencies. That will be this month, and we will kind of discuss that project, which is slated to occur the following, about a year from now, the following kind of winter environmental window. Yep, for the next slide, that's good, Deb, right there on the beach project updates. So we've done the New River Inlet Army Corps of Engineer dredging, which will be completed this winter. The dune truck haul, which are where we're still kind of, the FEMA process has been longer than usual. And then we have the category G project, which we're going to do the scoping meeting this month, and the project will occur next winter, the construction in the winter window. The New River Inlet Management EIS, and that is related to the terminal groin. Again, we're waiting for that big project. The next step is that large scoping meeting with the public and all stakeholders, people who use the inlet, people who use that shoreline, people who fish the inlet, anyone near that, people who own properties, near that inlet shoreline, anyone and everyone, people, from inland, who are affected by potentially that project, there should all be invited to this big, big meeting. And the COVID pandemic has unfortunately been delaying this significantly. But even besides that, the Corps, where overall I'm frustrated, and I know the board is frustrated with the Corps' kind of timeline, and they are in complete control of this timeline, and it seems to be delayed. So even prior to COVID, the Corps seem to be delaying this project. The final one is that CAMA and the Department of Coastal Management, DCM, which kind of enforces CAMA. They are updating the sediment criteria for beach nourishment projects. And it's basically related to shell and rocks. And it really shouldn't change much, but they want to have, they're proposing to have kind of background studies done along the beach every 5,000 feet, where you take like 100-foot square, 100 feet by 100 foot, excuse me, so 1,000 square, and kind of count rocks and gravel above greater than 1 inch in diameter and shells above 3 inches in diameter, and get this kind of background information. And then in for future, if you did put a project, put sand out there, they could compare the post-project, rocks and sand percentages to the pre-project rocks and sand percentages. The DCM is providing grants for this, and I'll be working with the town manager to submit a grant, which is due at the end of this month. So the town can kind of do this analysis and have this data that DCM is now requiring. And so those are pretty much my beach updates.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem?
Frank, this is Mike Benson. On this grant we're just talking about, is DCM going to require the shell and rock assay for every beach where they provide a permit for beach nourishment in the future? Is that the scope of the need for this survey?
Yes, it's going to be a statewide requirement.
Okay. When is that going to be imposed? Do you have an idea of what the timeline is for that?
I would think probably about 6 months, based on their proposed updates. I guess we'll hear more at the next CRC meeting.
Well, is that going to affect our Category G ocean dredge project?
No, no, it won't. The sand that we're putting on the beach doesn't have any shell in it, so we don't have to worry about that. And then the rocks, we have, obviously the town of North Topsail Beach has had issues with rock before, and all the permit conditions and everything are already built in to, require the proper compatibility. It seems like the reasons behind it are, especially for the gravel, the one greater than 1 inch and rocks greater than 1 inch diameter. It seems like the existing sediment criteria already have that covered, but apparently they think not. They don't think so. So they put this in, and then greater than 3 inch in diameter. That is new, and that's something that they, I guess, are concerned about. And I'm not sure which project along the North Carolina coastline, really is the impetus for that one. But apparently there must have been a project that put a lot of shell on the beach.
Okay, I have a follow-up question on Category G. Talking about the pre-scoping meeting for Category G occurring this month. My question is, since there are only 5 ocean certified dredge companies, do you foresee being able to get a contract signed in time to start pumping sand on the Category G project in November of this year?
Yes, but recall that we're actually proposing to truck haul that material at the moment, because the offshore bar area, it would just require much too much research and background data collection prior to permitting, that we can't do that. In order to keep this project moving forward and try to get this, Florence is a couple years, 2018, and we're in 2021 now. Try to get that project going, we're going to just try to truck haul it. But in general, I think yes. I mean, the dredgers, the offshore dredgers require usually about 6 months advance notice. And they don't really, you can plan 18 months in advance, but usually at least 6 months is good. If the board does want to try to use the New River Inlet bar area again, we could use that because you can get about 600,000 cubic yards of material. Yes, I know. And that's why we're not doing that. But that is kind of a permitted borrow source. And that is basically related to New River Inlet management. But so that's the plan for now.
So, Fran, I did forget that you had told us earlier that we were going to truck haul category G. So I apologize for asking that question over again. But I
No
do
problem.
have one final question about the New River Inlet Management Master Plan. We had asked you for a timeline because we heard this week from Mickey Suggs that he's planning on making some kind of a video to put out there for the public to comment on in lieu of the in-person stakeholders meeting. And I really think we need this timeline to be able to go to Mickey and say, look, we're talking 3 years since we started the process of applying for this EIS study. And we're nowhere closer to having it now than before. So if we had that timeline of all the gaps that we've seen, we know the gaps are 6, 8, 12 months long. I think we just need to present that timeline to Nikki again and encourage them to kind of get on the ball and get back to the work of doing the EIS work. So
I actually have a timeline. I can get it to you tomorrow. But I talked with Steve Dial, and I was under the impression that Steve Dial was actually going, because I don't know what Steve Dial has been doing, but I know the elements of the project that I've been involved with and that I've been involved with the board. I can get you a timeline with there, and then I can get maybe Steve Dial to kind of fill in, what he's been doing.
yeah, that would be great. We appreciate it. Thank you. That's all my question.
Just to follow up on that, if we could get that like as soon as possible, not wait like till the next meeting. Okay, that'd be great. And then that'll show us what's been done and what needs to be done, hopefully.
Yeah, I will get my timeline together, and I will get it to the town, and I will also CC Steve Dial at Dial Cordy, who's the third party contractor for the EIS development, because I know he's been doing some draft EIS stuff, but that might fill it in, and then we can go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Just a timeline. Thank you, Fran. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions for Fran?
Mayor, I apologize for being a few minutes late. I would ask at some point we make a motion to suspend the rules and add a closed session to discuss the CM Mitchell issue that we talked about at last meeting. Fran had indicated that he would be Fran, can you hear me?
Yes.
Fran has indicated that if necessary, he'd be available for me to call him in, and that the ground for that closed session would be potential litigation.
So do we need to make a motion? Second. All in favor?
All right, Fran, I will call or text you either way, whether we need you or don't need you.
Okay.
If you can keep your phone on, I would greatly
Sure.
appreciate it until you hear from me. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Much.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda would be a public hearing for case SUP 20-06. So do we have a motion to open the public hearing? Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Mayor and Board, before we start the public hearing, this will be a quasi judicial hearing, which means we will conduct it in a manner to ensure procedural and substantive due process. The applicant is entitled to a fair and impartial board or decision-making body, which means you're required to base your decision tonight solely on the competent evidence presented.
If I may interrupt you just 1 second.
I
You skipped
missed-
over the
I
easement.
did skip it. Do you want to do the beach access easement?
Yes, please.
I'm sorry about that. Sorry, Brian. You can tell us again that later.
This one enjoys the job.
It's a report.
Okay, so then, I'm sorry, I apologize that, everybody. The next item on the agenda is the beach access easement for 610 Ocean Drive, and it's still planning director. Mitchell.
Great, thank you. The owner for 16 Ocean Drive, Mrs. Janelle Stovall had applied for a crossover back in August. The camel letter of exemption, building permit, zoning permit, flood permits were all issued. It was earlier this week. Permit specialist Kate Winslow received a call from the contractor regarding the placement of the steps. When that was forwarded to me, I realized that the steps would have to be located in the right of way. I notified the owner via email that she would have to request an easement from the town to do any development outside of the boundaries of her property and into the right of way, into the town's right of way. So after the staff report was done, and so I think she did submit a request in writing, which the mayor has a copy of that. And staff's recommendation is the Board of Aldermen grant the easement for the construction of the crossover, allowing for the encroachment into the right of way, but not to exceed past the landward toe of the dunes or impede vehicular traffic.
Are there any questions?
Anything else, Ms. Hill, before I ask if folks have questions?
That's all I've got.
Okay, so we'll go around this way and we'll start with Mayor Pro Tem.
All right, Deb, could you put the map up that's associated with this? No, it's not part of the regular board package. The reason I
Right.
asked, and I'm gonna ask the Public Works Director, because the image that you shown in this request looks like the toe of the dune is actually over the white line of that road. It's hard to tell in the photograph where the road ends, the pavement ends, and the dune begins, but it looks like the toe of the dune has actually migrated out into the road. So I think we need some clarification on that because we don't want to be approving steps in the roadway.
Yeah, that's correct.
And, okay, well, Mike, are you okay if we continue to go around and then we'll address Mr. Peters? Do you have any questions? Okay. Alderman Leonard?
Negative.
I'm sorry. Would you? I heard what Mike said. Did you say he's right? So the steps would be in the dune, or the steps would be in the road,
They're right at the road.
They're right at the road.
and we're all right with that?
That's why we're here.
Okay.
I'm showing you an aerial up there.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes, sir.
if we are inclined to grant the easement, we can limit it in scope as we see fit, provided it helps them do whatever they want to do. And I would recommend that if you're inclined to grant the easement, you would do it contingent upon my consultation with police and fire and anyone else, Public Works, to make sure it can be done so constructed safely and not become a safety hazard.
Yes, sir.
I'm fine with that. That's kind of where I was going. I think those guys got to sign off on something like this. I don't know enough about it. An informed decision, but I think to Brian's point, if they meet the criteria, it's fine.
You're fine. So I will say, when I looked at this earlier today, I had the same concern. When I looked up and down the street, there are two other crossovers that are similar in nature to where they end pretty much at the street. But when you look south down Ocean, it looks like the crossovers have much more room between them and the road. So my concern also would be, when we scrape sand off the road, is it a problem? Are we gonna cause any harm to the crossover, those types of things?
Well,
So I do like your idea, Brian.
That's the type of thing that I would like to put in it too. We reserve the right, if we have to work in that area and it happens to damage whatever they put in that
Exactly.
area, we don't have to pay to bring that back to whatever condition.
Because we've had to scrape this road before. Okay.
That's fine. So do we take a motion?
I was gonna ask,
Well, yeah.
this isn't one of the public hearings,
Yeah.
this is just an item. So do we have a motion?
A motion to convey an easement if contingent upon all public safety concerns being addressed, as well as reserving the town's right to conduct work in the easement area without having to repay the property owner if we have to damage something they put in the easement.
I'll make the motion stated by the town attorney.
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Hill, do you have any questions on that?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so then what we need is a motion, this time we'll get it right, to open the public hearing for case SUP 20-06. And Brian, I think you want to say a word.
Want, no, but need to, yes. Mayor, this and board, this is a application for a special use permit. The applicant is entitled to a fair and impartial decision-making body. Accordingly, we're going to conduct this in a manner to ensure that they have both procedural and substantive due process, that their due process rights are protected. I need to ask a few questions of the entire board to make sure that we can be fair and impartial. So the first question I'll ask is, has anyone on the board had any ex parte contact with either the applicant or staff concerning the subject matter of this application? And ex parte means substantive discussions outside the context of this hearing we're about to have. Madam Clerk, let the record reflect that no one appears to have had any ex parte contact. Ma'am.
No, this one, Deb, first I want to confirm, this one is for the ship watch.
That's correct.
Okay, so I have not spoken to the person that's purchasing this lot or seen any of these plans prior to the hearing. However, I do have the seller of this parcel. So my concern is I don't believe I would be in a voting capacity tonight because we have a full board.
So if whatever happens tonight could impact the potential sale of this property.
So
And
I'm fine recusing myself. If I need to do that.
in the sale of the property, you would have a financial and personal
Yes, sir.
impact. I would recommend then, Madam Mayor, that we make a motion to recuse the mayor from voting on this matter in the event there's a tie. I think we have to by law.
Me too.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor of that, is that unanimous? Madam Clerk, the mayor.
Brian, just one question.
Yes, sir.
Recusal also means not participating in the discussion. too.
Correct.
That was my point.
No, I know that, but you talked about voting. I think she meant more than that.
Madam Clerk, if you'll make sure the minutes reflect that a motion has been made and unanimously carried that the mayor is recused from both the discussion and vote on this matter. Fine. Other than the mayor, who's already been recused, does anyone feel they have a financial interest in the outcome of this application? No. Has anyone made a site visit to the site affected or encompassed by this application?
Not knowing that. I'll drive home.
Does anyone have a either business or family relationship with anyone associated with this application? Can any of you think of any reason why that would prevent you from making your decision tonight based solely on the competent evidence presented during the hearing itself? If so, raise your hand and let's discuss that. All right. The applicant has the burden of proof. The burden to prove the 4 elements that are found in your agenda packet. I'll just go through them quickly. The first is that the use or development is located, designed, proposed to be operated so as to maintain, promote the public health, safety, and general welfare. One that has to not harm the public health, safety, and general welfare. Number 2, the proposed use of development complies with all required regulations and standards of the Code of Ordinances and with other applicable regulations. Number 3, the use of development conforms to the plans for the land use and development of the town of North Topsail Beach as embodied in our Code of Ordinances. and in the town, of North Topsail Beach came a land use plan and number, is it just 3 then?
It's just 3.
I apologize, just those 3. So the applicant has the burden of proof. If the applicant comes forward and meets, in your opinion, that burden of proof, it would be incumbent upon anyone in opposition to this to rebuke that evidence. If that does not happen, then the applicant would be entitled to the permit, although the board could, to the extent potential conditions related to these 3 criteria, add certain conditions to the permit. Having said that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Hill to introduce the item, and we'll start the public hearing.
Okay, special use permit 20-06, rounding out last year. Mr. Ricks has some plans that he's gonna pass around to you while we discuss it. You can go ahead and do that now. Capital Asset Properties, Real Realty Company Incorporated is a sales contract on it, as we discussed before. Charles Riggs is here representing the buyer, seller. Property located north of Super Villas, tax map 779, that's 14.17. We're requesting to construct. We're requesting to construct 2 3 units and 1 2 unit townhouses, 8 units total. Property zone R5 is currently vacant. To the northeast, a vacant lot zoned R5. To the southeast is the Atlantic Ocean. To the west are Superwatch Villas townhomes zoned R5. The lot size is 0.861 acres with 37,505 square feet. Planning board's recommendation was to approve with conditions, contingent upon all conditions identified in the staff report and the EDF being complete. The Camel Lane use plan identifies the property as high density residential, so it would be consistent with the land use plan. Unwashed water, of course, are both available properties within Cobra and not eligible for federal flood insurance. It's in an AE flood zone with base flood elevation of 12 feet, based on the latest flood maps that were adopted in June. It's in an ocean hazard area of environmental concern. The proposed lot meets all minimum dimensional requirements for 8 units in an R5 zoning district, i.e. 5,000 square feet plus 5,000 square feet for each unit over 2. Attached in the staff report is the site plan, the application in response to standards. Excuse me. And for the record, I request that the clerk include the entire staff report
Exhibit 1.
as exhibit 1.
Are there any objections to the staff report? All items related to this application coming into evidence as exhibit 1. Mayor Pro Tem, since the mayor's recused, I recommend that the board accept the portion of the agenda packet related to this item into evidence without objection as exhibit 1.
We need a motion for that.
I'm gonna skip down. I'm sorry.
It's accepted in evidence.
Yeah, we accept it.
Thank you, sir. As exhibit 1. Thank you, Ms. Hill.
I'd like to skip down to paragraph C in the second or third paragraph that I've written. Just to give you that, Mr. Riggs has submitted a lighting plan. And the plat that he submitted did include the number of bedrooms and proposed parking with the driveway as well as emergency driveway. There was one comment from, I believe, the fire chief requesting the fire hydrant be identified and located, and I'll let Mr. Riggs go over that. So, I think we've gone through and addressed all other concerns other than the lighting plan, which we've received in the fire hydrant, so. Mr. Riggs, if you'd like to take over.
Need to be sworn.
Oh,
Yes.
sorry, skip that part. I swear that everything that I just said was true, but doesn't matter.
Do you swear that the evidence you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Mr. Riggs, on behalf of the applicant, do you have any problem with Ms. Hill's oath being retroactive to her earlier comments?
No, sir.
Thank you.
With the board permission, I'm going to stand over here so I can. Charles Riggs, 502 New Bridge Street, Jacksonville. I'm the surveyor on this project here on behalf of Capital Asset Properties, Mr. Chris Clayton. Ed's done a very thorough job. I'll be quick, but I'll go through it quickly so you'll know exactly where we are. The property is right at 8/10 of an acre, right at 37,000 square feet. We're proposing 8 units. Those eight units are allowed under the present zoning R5. We have the required density as shown in the note at the top right. We're showing a 20-foot driveway coming off of Highway 1568 New River Inlet Road. We have placed a fire hydrant at that entrance, a proposed fire hydrant as requested by utility department. The driveways and the parking will all be pervious material. And I have a detail showing that compacted subgrade, geotextile fabric, and stone, which is all considered pervious. Our total impervious surface for the plan is going to be only 7,587 square feet. And that's basically just the rooftops of the structure. We show the 8 units. I do show the parking below each one. You'll see the notes below each cross section. The total square floor area for each one is anywhere from 2,905 square feet to 2,450 square feet. We're showing the total floor area for each structure. We are showing the required parking and the proposed parking. And you can see we're showing unfortunately, my plans for planning board didn't show the parking as well because we had ghosted those. So I darkened those cars on this so you can see that. So we have exceeded the parking requirements necessary for the density of this project. We're showing a proposed pool along the ocean side. We've added a lighting plan to this. These will be low wattage, directional, and time lighting. And I'm showing the illumination, the areas that will be covered. It won't light up the adjoining properties. Any lighting that you see along the walkway to the pool will be low profile, just next to the walkway. And I have added the note, of course, that outdoor lighting will be accomplished by low wattage and use of full cutoff fixtures, location and height luminaries. The lighting shall not illuminate any part of the dune area or the public beach area. Okay, I'm going to make sure that you conform to the code on that. We're showing connections to Awasa, public water, and also connections to Polaris, private sewer company. We do, as R5 zoning, we're allowed to have high density. We are compliant with the Tama land use plan. And we feel like that everything we've shown on here is compliant, protects the general welfare of the public. I think the only deficiencies at planning board were the fire hydrant and the lighting plan that we have with that.
I can go back to the lighting plan if they want to go over that. I was trying to bring that up.
I do have it illustrated in blue on the plan.
Okay.
Y'all, you can see that. Any questions? So I'll be glad that what we're looking at here are, the 3-story units. There will be an enclosure below, more than likely, for access, whether it be elevator or stairs. And we've got sufficient room outside of where the vehicles are shown for that enclosure. We do satisfy we are below the allowable height requirement in the town. We also are showing in our parking areas
We're showing proposed emergency access into the adjacent asphalt drive of Ship Watch Villas. In case somebody needs to get out for any reason or get in, for any reason there's access there. That being said, I'll be glad to answer any questions or concerns you have. Yes, sir.
Just curiosity, Deb had mentioned the 5,000 square foot, the density requirements, and you got it as 2, 6, and 8. Everything is 5,000, you get to 8. Is that just because it's non-linear? Because 8 units would be 40,000 square feet if it's 5,000 each. So is it? Well, I'm just curious.
For
I'm
every
just looking
two-
at the math.
Every 2 units is 5,000. And then any additional unit to that would be 5,000.
So,
Yes,
so
sir.
3 would be 15,000,
That's right.
4 would be 20.
I'm looking at 8 should be 40, but he's got 35.
No, it's actually, these 3 units would be 10,000. These 3 units would be 10. It would, and he said, no, we got it. The 8 units is fine because you got 8 units, you got 2, you have 6 times 5 is 30,
One at a
plus
time.
another 5 is 35,000. So you have 8 units, the first 2 units is 5,000.
Oh, in total, not each.
That's right.
Right.
For 2 units, you
Got it.
have
You're right, you're right.
5,000.
I'm good.
And then 6 units times 5,000 is 30, so we have 35.
I got it. I didn't know, I thought it was 5,000 each for the units. I got it. I was just looking at the math, because the math didn't make any
Right.
sense to me.
Believe me, we went through that several times initially just to make sure.
Yeah, you're 24,
So
you're
we're good.
24, 74.
That's right. So we meet the requirements.
Okay.
Mr. Riggs, would you like to introduce this plan as Exhibit 2?
Yes, sir. Please do.
Are there any objections to that? Mayor Pro Tem Benson, hearing no objections, I recommend we accept into evidence without objection this special use plan dated mapping date January 7th, 2021 into evidence as Exhibit 2.
But we will accept this as exhibit 2 very much.
Mayor Pro Tem, I ask Mr. Riggs a question. Mind if I ask him a question?
Go ahead.
Mr. Riggs, did I understand you to say that you addressed the planning board's concerns on this plan?
Yes, I did.
Are you aware of the proposed conditions that the planning board suggested?
The only proposed, yes,
And if the board were to approve this application with those conditions, do you have any concerns about that if you've already incorporated them into the revised plan?
I have no concerns with you having incorporated. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, we go around and ask the board if they have specific questions.
I don't have any questions.
I do have a couple of questions for information. On the north side, you're showing the pervious driveway, and you've got a 20-foot wide driveway, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. On the south side, you said there was a 20-foot setback from the structures to the property line, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
My scale looks like it shows only 8 foot.
Well, the side setback is 8, yes, sir.
So is that within our
Yes, sir.
code? An 8-foot setback versus 10-foot setback?
Side set,
Property line?
side setbacks for, was it R5?
R5 is,
Setbacks for R5 are 8 foot, are 8 feet. The front setback is 20 feet.
I had that noted, if you go over to the right-hand side of the plane, I have the setback. Illustrated. We're showing the structure closest to the street is located 20 feet off the right of way. It is 8 feet off the side setback next to ship wash facility. And I actually have them spelling there. Before I know it came off. So we have exceeded or met the setback.
Okay, as far as the proposed pool.
Yes,
goes,
sir.
How far is that from the toe of the dune? not seeing a measurement here. I see the total approved line in the plan, but I don't see the distance.
It's right up to the toe of the dune. If you look at the cross section at the top of the page.
Yeah.
You can see there's not much of a dune there. And we're proposing to have the decking of the dune right at the toe of the dune.
Okay.
Not the pool, but the decking of the dune. Decking of the pool.
And one other question, at the street, well, I don't know if this comes under our jurisdiction or not, but will a swale be placed between the road and this project to collect runoff?
That will be part of my discussion with the Department of Transportation when we procure our driveway permit. But I would not see where a swell would be harmful. I think it would be a benefit to the project.
They're quite common now.
Yes, sir.
Wherever we have new construction, we try to encourage swales, hold that runoff from the street.
Swells and not berms.
Yeah. Okay, Attorney,
Yes, Mr. Riggs, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I believe we meet all the requirements necessary for approval of the special use permit.
Ms. Hill, just to confirm in light of Mayor Pro Tem Benson's questions, from staff's perspective, does this plan comply with our town code of ordinances?
As I stated in my staff report, yes. These met the conditions the deficiencies that we discussed with the planning board. There are some items with reference to our town code that have to be taken care of after the approval process.
Right.
But this is the concept to approve the use for townhouses.
Right.
And then we'll proceed.
And there'll be additional approvals that would be required once this hurdle's open. Thank you, Ms. Hill. Mayor Pro Tem Benson, that's all I have. And at this point, if Mr. Riggs doesn't want to add anything to his presentation, I would ask that if anyone would like to speak regarding this matter who hasn't spoken, be sworn in and make their presentation or provide their testimony now. Appears no one wants to speak, so at this point, Mayor Pro Tem Benson, would be appropriate to close the public hearing.
do I have a motion to close public hearing? Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Benson and board members, it's apparent to me that the applicant has carried its burden of proof. There was not only no evidence to the contrary, but in fact, staff agrees. So I think it would be the duty of this board to approve this application, and you can append the conditions that the planning board suggested. I think that will probably be duplicative because it sounds like they were already addressed. But just to be safe, the applicant has no objections to it. I would recommend a motion to approve with the conditions that the planning board recommends.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Susan Meyer. Aye. Rich Grant.
Aye.
Tom Miller.
Aye.
Richard Peters.
Aye.
Mike Dixon.
All right, Madam Clerk, we have a unanimous vote. We have a issuance with the conditions as described by the planning board. And other than the testimony, the additional evidence is exhibit 1, which is the agenda packet portion dealing with this item. And exhibit 2 is the mapping date plan, January 7th, 2021.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rich.
I'll make, with the board permission, I might be.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
You have a copy?
I'm gonna leave one.
So we're all gonna move on to, public hearing case SD 2002. Do we need a motion to open the public hearing?
Yes.
Brian, do you feel that you want to go on one again?
No, this is quite right.
Our subdivision ordinances are, when we discussed it before, it's kind of a cross between legislative and judicial, quasi judicial. I wanted to ask Brian and the mayor what you'd like to do. Weston Lyle is he's not here tonight. I've not heard from him. I'm not sure if he's tried to contact me. I certainly don't have an email from him. I tried to call him. I'd stepped out right after we got started and called his office and just got their voicemail. So I don't know if you would like to go over it, or if you'd like to continue it until next month.
I say we don't, I say we open the public hearing and then recess it until next month. That way we don't have to re-advertise.
That works very well. And there are a number of items, a number of conditions that they needed to meet after the review from the planning board has reviewed it at their last meeting.
Right.
There are a number of conditions that they need to make, a number of corrections. In addition, okay.
I want them to wait to hear the evidence when it's live, but okay. Well,
If it's legislative, then it's not evidence.
well, I agree with you, but it sounds like you think it may be a hybrid. So if you want to take a recess, you and I can talk about it. But if it's legislative, you can say whatever you want to right now. If we're going to go into the quasi judicial.
If we just continue it, I'm satisfied.
Then you and I can
So we had a motion to open. Do we need a motion to call a recess until the next?
recess it until the February meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
The next item is the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All in favor?
Second.
Okay, then we're gonna move on to the continuing business portion of the agenda. And that would be surrounding the resolution for the, to present to the LGC regarding the federal project. Attorney Eads did send us out a.
Just one thing. I thought that on the committee reports, I had it that Mike's
I had that
amendment
as
was.
C, under continuing business.
Oh, under continue, okay, I had it under, got it.
Is
I
that
had it
where
in the
you
wrong
wanted
spot.
it?
I had it in the wrong spot. Go ahead.
That's where it would go.
That's where we go. Got it. Go ahead.
Okay, so, Attorney Eads did send us out a draft of the resolution regarding our preparation to speak with the LGC and our repayment on the USDA loan, as well as our plan for the federal project. Did you want to?
Well, I just like to elaborate on it. Number one, I apologize. As you all know, you just got it this afternoon. I had a pre-planned vacation with my daughter to the mountains, but Mr. Doug Carter was kind enough to give me some guidance on what he thought the resolution should contain. Mr. Carter has indicated via email, I'll let him speak for himself, that the substance of the resolution meets that criteria, although Alderman Grant pointed out some non sequiturs and typos in it. And I certainly would like to make those changes. And if any of you other board members have found any typos, when you read your own work, sometimes you know what it's supposed to say, so your mind skips over your typos. The feedback from Alderman Grant was spot on as far as the typos and some of the non sequiturs. Having said that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. I believe Mr. Carter's on standby as well.
Mr. Carter, are you on there?
I am, Mayor.
There you are. Sir, did you have an opportunity to also see Mr. Eads' resolution?
I did.
Okay. I'm just trying to get it on record. And I believe you were fine with it.
Yeah, I think it does the right job. I'm one of these major point readers, so I read it for major points, and I appreciate that there might be some minor changes, but I think it is spot on in terms of what it does and the order it's in and what it includes.
And let the minutes reflect, I did not pay him to say that.
So do we have a motion to adopt the resolution with the changes that Alderman Grant has submitted? Do you want to review those or?
Yeah, I think we need to review.
Okay, can you review
Sure. Just real quickly, no changes on the first page. The second page under 2, item 2, I just put in to move forward with consideration of federal projects. And the reason I'm saying that is this is not setting rates or doing anything else. And we need the feedback from them on the project. And also, I think council has also got other documents we would have to have with the Corps.
Right.
Okay, in place. And so to say that we are moving forward with it, rather than putting in a whole bunch of stuff with this condition, and everything else, we said, look, we're going forward with it. As long as we can meet those criteria, that's fine, but we haven't got it. I also dropped where it says, and I apologize if you can't read this, at the end of that, it says to cover both initial project costs and the cost of future renourishments. But the schedule as I looked at it is for the first cost. It's $3 million a year. And so I think that it's not accurate to say that that's the model we're going to use. One is we don't even have any idea what the renourishment costs are going to be, as Mr. Carter has routinely pointed out to me. And so I think just to be direct with the LGC, what we're asking them to do is look at the financing of the second one. And then on 4, it's what we're committing to do in here. Again, I've gotten so much feedback, good feedback from our constituents about what are you guys approving? And the answer is, what you're seeing there is not what we're going to be putting in the budget. It might be, we don't know. Is that we're moving forward we have to present a model to the LGC. Okay, and then just the rest of it is just little typos. So I don't think they're material, Brian. It was just clarifying a couple of things.
Well, if I may, Mr. Carter, the way I had it read, if you have the version that I drafted in front of you, if you'll look on page 2 at the bottom, number 2. The way I had it originally, it read commits to moving forward with the federal project, and Alderman Grant has inserted after the word with consideration of the federal project. And I'd like your thoughts on whether you think that's a material change in that statement. And then I have another question, if you want to go ahead and answer that one now. Then I have another question.
Okay, tell me one more time what comes in. Is it after the with, the 5th word in?
Consideration of, yes, sir.
You've got a red line that I sent you, Mr. Carter.
Okay, let me find it. Right here it is.
Yep, I try to do red lines because then I can follow what changes I make.
Okay, I have it.
And it's just in the 1, 2, 3, 4 resolutions.
I'm not sure I have any difficulty with that.
The same question in that same number, Mr. Carter. I thought, and I may be wrong, but I thought that you made a reference in your suggestion to me about the cost of future nourishment projects.
Mm-hmm.
And if you'll look at Alderman Grant's red line, he's deleted in that same number 2, that last clause and the cost of future renourishment cycle.
I have no problem with that.
And I think the word both should also be.
Yeah, it's out. It's hard to see.
And
I took that out.
And the intent was, number 4 was not locking into any percentages or anything. It was, these are the revenue alternatives we're exploring to meet the cost burden. But Mr. Carter, if you're fine with the revisions, I certainly will defer to you.
So you're good with paragraph 4 revisions as well, Doug?
I'm good with them, yes.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Typo, to me anyway, the word by, under number 4 we're talking about would be but.
Yes, he's Mr. Grant's.
I got that one. I'm sorry, I meant to print a copy out in color for everybody, and apparently I didn't.
And I also have a correction on page 1.
Since over 20 years. That should be for over 20 years.
No, well,
We just crossed out since over.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I did make changes to the first page.
where,
Under whereas, the second one, it says construct a project of this nature, and it says since over 20 years, and it's dropped since over 20 years. I didn't think that added anything. And then at the last whereas, it just left out the word loan after the word USDA. Repaying a USDA related.
I believe respectfully that in the first, in the second whereas, with the 20 years, I respectfully request that I think we'll reword it, but I do think it's significant for other reasons that we memorialize that this effort has been going on for over 20 years.
And that verbiage is perfect.
Yeah.
This nature for over 20 years.
Yeah,
Instead of since,
It's gotta be
yeah,
for.
it's just four.
Yeah, okay.
did you also correct in the first whereas, line 3, from 9.9 miles to 4 miles?
Oh, good catch.
Well, that's for,
That was, he did both towns.
so I know that was a project wide, it's a 9.9 mile project.
9. Okay.
And again, there's a tangential, this will have a side purpose, not just for the LGC. So I think it's important to memorialize the scope of the project in this resolution.
And you do reference both our city and North Council Beach. I think that's fine.
Susan also pointed out in the fourth whereas, the first sentence, first line at the end of it, I added the word of. So it reads, presented with a number of funding options.
Right.
And I believe the second item under the town planning is the financial plan, but really the purpose of that was just so everybody had a chance to review one more time this model that's being attached to the resolution. There is no separate discussion tonight regarding the actual financial model. So I believe what we're looking for is a motion to adopt the resolution with the changes.
As revised.
As revised. Which is, second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Okay,
Mr. Carter, I'll make these revisions. I'll get them to the mayor. We'll get it executed and we'll get you a formal copy for your use. And I really appreciate your guidance on the substance of what needed to be in this resolution.
Very good. Thank you.
the next item on the agenda, and Mr. Carter, you may want to stay tuned for this one, would be the paid parking discussion. I don't know if you, if Mr. Gilbride had shared that with you, but he distributed to all of us a very nice document that was very clear, I think, with the current struggles that we're having, why we need to move to a paid parking model, what we currently have in place, what this new vendor has to offer, and the benefits to us. So, Mr. Gilbride, I'll turn it over to you and if you want to hit any highlights.
Great, thank you. Well, the report is being prepared, of course, for the board. And was really a summary of what the committee has come up with, which was Alderman Grant, Alderman Leonard, myself, and various staff members as they were needed or involved. But I also tried to write it in such a way that I could now post it on the social media and our website, so that the constituents can understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, and that the paid parking was not ever intended to create problems for any of our residents or non-resident homeowners. It was to defray the cost of this federal project and to bring down any tax impact that we could. Ultimately, what it comes down to is we're trying to find the vendor or a solution that will require little or no capital investment on our part and will simply generate revenue. Our current, and I attached contracts to the board pieces so that the board can see what our contractual obligations already were at the 4x4 lot, what they would likely be to continue with the same vendor, including additional costs like kiosks and having to provide a vehicle and that sort of thing. The recommended vendor that we're looking at would not require that, but there would be some education. It wouldn't require the use of an app or a smartphone. Everybody doesn't have that, so we would like to be able to educate not only the people who live here, because they're not going to be required to pay for parking, But the people in the surrounding counties who come down here as day trippers, who frankly bring only the cost and none of the benefits that we get from both the long-term renter and from the property owner who uses it as a second home or whatever. So ultimately, all I'm really asking for is for the board's blessing for the committee to continue very rapidly starting to communicate with everyone what this will entail, how they go about registering their vehicles, to start determining what rates we're going to use on the various parking lots. But what it comes down to is either you have paid parking or you're going to get a ticket. And the newer vendor will take over parking enforcement. Their payment will be based on what we collect and what they collect, basically, rather than any set fee or management fee. We would like to go ahead and start getting the parking bumpers, getting the signage ordered, and get everything in place for our March 1st rollout on the paid parking. So basically, I don't think I need much from the board other than your approval for us to continue in the direction we're going. And to give you a chance, if you have any questions on all this, I'm certainly happy to answer them.
Okay, so why don't we take a minute and just go around each board member and see if anybody has any comments or questions on the matter?
I'm good with it. I think it's a wonderful project. I think we have to come up with some creative ways to advertise it. And that's going to take a little bit, but the overall project looks like a good one.
Alderman Grant?
I was in the committee, so I don't have any comments.
Leonard?
I was on the committee too. My only comment is to echo what Susan said. You know, the biggest issue we're gonna face with this is getting things, getting our public prepared to do what they need to do and download the app and be, registered vehicles and all those things before they try to head to the beach for the first time in the spring. And the only way we're going to do that is with a really well orchestrated media type plan. We're going to need to talk to the Daily News. We're going to probably need to talk to some of the Wilmington television stations and try to roll this thing out with as much advance notice and preparation as possible. But I think to Dave's credit, he's done a super job keeping us in line. And he's done a real good job with the presentation that he put together that really was succinct in terms of providing the history and the background and the necessity for what we're trying to do here. So my hat's off to you, so appreciate the work.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Alderman Peters. Do you have any questions on the parking plan? Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Just a couple for information, since I have to admit, I haven't studied the details of the contract or the agreement. What are the charges going to be per day that you're expecting?
We hadn't really zeroed in on it. We have
Okay.
so many options. We're probably looking at a $20 per day fee for just to come and park for the day. But we also want to look at the season rate for the person perhaps that lives in the States Ferry and wants to use the beach frequently. Or I should say the annual rate. We'll likely adjust northward 4x4 lot because that $20 is that's a bargain and too big of a bargain. And these revenues, of course, are going to be dedicated over to the beach project and the beach funds. So we don't want to abuse people, but let's face it, the day tripper has not been supporting the cost of maintaining anything at these beaches ever. It's incumbent on us, I think, to relieve some of the pressure from the residents and property owners.
The other question I had was, in your initial comments, you said there wasn't a percentage that the town would share with the parking vendor. What's the relationship between their income stream and our income stream?
They will actually be doing the collections on all of the violations that are issued. Well, for one thing, we're going to have the lots for people who have signed up on the app and everything else. One lot will be designated for people who perhaps do not have a smartphone and will be billed through the mail. The same way that they do some of the easy pass type tolls toward Charlotte and Raleigh. Our original, our guys in right now charge us an 8% management fee, plus all expenses, payroll, taxes,
Insurance.
benefits, insurance, gas and mileage, supervisory fees, all of which comes out to just about 30% of our revenue. The fee here would likely be in the 25 to 30% range, because we haven't decided on some of those additional costs of enforcement. But they will not only be enforcing parking in the lots, but anyone who chooses to park on a side street that's marked as no parking, they will also be ticketing those vehicles. So we'll take the primary responsibility for parking costs off of the police department and let them police the way they should be. And collection of all those fees and violations will be incumbent upon the vendor. If they don't collect the money, if people don't send in the violation, they get paid nothing.
Okay. Okay, just one other comment, just to follow up on what Tom and one of the things that we really want to get this thing rolled out as quickly as possible is because this revenue is going to offset every day that we wait to run this thing out is another dollar that doesn't go against the beach projects. And so, you know, when you look at any of the models, you know, when we talk about the money coming in, it's going to help us as a board and town to understand how much money we can get this way, where it's coming into. And I think the other thing too is the view of we're going to have parking areas and everything else is going to be no parking areas. So people that get concerned about people parking in the yards and stuff like that, this is going to take care of their problem as well.
The only thing I wanted to add, and I was just thinking about it after I read through the plan, is I think we've covered the off-street parking very well in the document. But what about folks who have just vacant lots where people park now? Because I know we have issues enforcing on that right now. I mean, what if somebody just sees, hey, there's a vacant lot, and then all of a sudden you got 30 cars in that?
They'll still have the same problem because they can't enforce it if they're on private property.
But is there anything, I guess my question is there anything that the owners can do if we end up having an issue with that? We just need to be prepared
The owners.
let them know what they need to do.
We have a barrier.
And they can
It's
put,
private
they
property.
can tow vehicles.
The problem is most of them are absentee because they're vacant lots.
If it's a large vacant lot that's always like that, they can post it and have the sign there for whatever tow company is responsible for it. The tow company can come down and tow that vehicle.
So they can set
automatically.
up an arrangement with the tow company
They can do
themselves.
that. I can do that.
Okay. I think, I'm just saying, maybe include that in the plan. Okay. So we need,
Just
just,
had one more question.
yes,
Do you know where Surf City is in their paid parking? Are they moving along with it so it'll be
Yes,
coming out about the same time we
Yep.
do it, or for next summer, this coming summer?
we think so.
Yeah, my understanding is they are.
Not that it
considering
really
it.
matters, but it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
Considering doing it,
Yeah.
one at a time.
I believe they're considering doing it and doing it at about the same time of the deal.
Great.
But I don't know that that's been approved by their board or I really haven't spoken to it lately.
I was not there, their meeting was Tuesday night, but it's my understanding that they were going to make a motion to approve the proposed vendor contract subject to my final edit. I was unable to reach Mr. Brewer today when I called. But I have no reason to believe that did not happen Tuesday night.
So is there any objection with us providing direction to our town manager to move forward with the contract and his communications with Mr. Eads and the vendor committee to get this? Okay, please continue, sir.
I do have a question. Attorney, just for information, Surf City, what is their vendor going to be?
It's the same vendor.
Same guy.
I'd have to look it up, but I take whoever's word for Dave. Excuse me,
My
Mr.
understanding
Gilbride.
is the same vendor and it was one of the attractions for doing this. I just didn't want to preempt what they've decided.
And, okay. All right, so the next item would be Alderman or Mayor Pro Tem item, which is the capital committee report.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I'd like to give the board an update of the capital improvements committee meeting that we had Monday. The committee consists of Manager Gilbride, Alderman Grant, Chief Gungler, and Chief Ford, and myself. We met Monday to talk about the issues with the South Fire Station. Going back to 2016, our board at that time realized the need to replace the South Fire Station. Well, as you can imagine, that need has increased dramatically in the next 4 years to now. We have rotten structural supports. I'm talking about steel girders that are rotting. The leaks in the roof cannot seem to be adequately or at least permanently fixed. So we really have to move forward. And the purpose of the committee meeting was to go back and look at a architectural plan that we had gotten from a Wilmington architectural firm. We talked about that a little bit. We also, in the meeting, talked about the need for a new police station because the police department has been inadequately housed in North Topsail Beach ever since we built Town Hall, basically, going back to that far back. So we really do need to do something for the police. And one of the things that came out of the meeting in our discussion was that it makes a lot of sense since we have to replace the fire station immediately. And by that, I mean, really as soon as we can get a financial plan together and an architect and so forth to start developing a plan. It makes a lot of sense to actually add to that, make it a public safety building such that it will serve the needs of replacing the South Fire Station, but it will also give the police department the kind of facilities that they really should have had in this town many years ago. So really what I want to bring to the board tonight are two things. One, I'd like to ask the board to ask Mr. Carter to work on a financial plan as to how we can pay for a public safety building. If we agree that's the right we're going to go, that's our recommendation to the committee. And then two, ask the town manager to work with the architectural firm in Wilmington. And this was Becker Morgan. We had a plan, like I said, that goes back to 2016 for the fire station alone. And as you know, nothing really happened yet. So go back, have the town manager go back, talk to Becker Morgan, have our chiefs work together with the town manager, figure out what they really need in the new public safety building. Our thinking is we'll be able to combine some of the space in this building so it will lower the actual cost. And two, I think the cost will be less because we have one big project rather than having the fire station now and in 3 or 4 years to try to build a police station. So those are the two recommendations. One, ask the Carters to start working on a financial plan, and two, to have the town manager continue exploring a public safety building.
Can you go around the board?
I just want to, we're on the same committee. One of the things we looked at too is for people to understand what Mike had said is, this is not something we can start next week. This is a plan that's going to take years to be able to construct this thing. And do stuff. What we're trying to do from the capital planning thing is to get an idea of what those kinds of things are going to be going forward. And having Mr. Carter go up and look at that and having talked to the police and the fire departments, and public works is, we said is we don't want an elephant after 5 years. We don't want to run into something we didn't give some thought and some planning to what the town is. So they would.
Yeah. But yeah, my thinking was that we need to prepare our budget for next year. We need to start having a capital improvements line item so that once we have a financial plan, then we'll have the resources to be able to begin to pay for the facility, whatever it is.
Any objections from any of the board members? So do we need, Attorney Eads, do we need a motion for this, or do we need to just give staff direction?
If there's a majority consensus to give staff direction, that's all.
Good? Okay. All right, then we're gonna move on to the attorney's report.
Had some things to discuss in closed session regarding the CN Mitchell status. Everyone had a great holiday season and happy new year to everyone. That's my report.
Okay. The mayor's report is also short. I want to wish everybody a happy new year. It's hopeful that, COVID would not be here anymore, but we're still transitioning through that. So I'm very hopeful that within the next few months, we'll at least be able to have some, get back to normal with some open meetings where folks are able to join us and actually give open forum comments in person instead of having to email them in. I appreciate everybody's dedication and commitment to North Topsail Beach as we move through this year with the challenges in front of us. They're not small. We talked about them tonight between paid parking, the federal project, the firehouse. Then we've got some challenges here, but I do appreciate everybody's commitment in working towards resolving those items and just getting them done. So I think we'll go around. We'll start with Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor,
Couple of things. I was really disturbed yesterday when I turned on the 6:30 news and saw the headline. It's not the America I know and love. I was very upset with what happened. And I hope that we can move forward from that and have a peaceful transition to a new federal government. As far as local scene goes, I'm participating in a North Carolina Coastal Federation marine debris project, which we're going to be trying to educate homeowners and contractors on designing and building resilient docks and piers. Because after major storms and flooding events, the pier debris and dock debris along the intercoastal waterway and in the marshes is a major, major problem. The Coastal Federation has removed over 350 tons of coastal debris in the past year with the grant that they have. The other aspect of this grant is to develop guidelines for construction of resilient piers and docks. And so that's my contribution to this effort, is help with the extension aspect of getting that information out to property owners who are considering building piers and docks and to contractors who are actually building them. So that is, that's my report for this month.
Alderman Peters, do you have anything you'd like to say?
I do have a question. In the analysis of parking, they give you the net expenses, but I've never seen a net expected profit.
Like,
Can you clarify that, or?
well, I can turn this over to Mr. Gilbride, but I believe what I read was that basically all the revenue comes in, they will get a portion of the revenue, but it's going to be based on the services that we select and the volume of revenue. Would that be correct?
Pretty much correct. And the net projection, and I think it's conservative, is about $500,000. And how does that compare to our kind of expectations?
I think that the $500,000 is what we have been using as a number that we're trying to achieve.
$1 million?
$500,000. Yes, sir. I like your number better.
More to.
Never know.
Okay?
For the record, we'll use $1 million.
Okay. Okay, thank you, sir. Alderman.
Me. Okay, I want to thank everyone who's joining us tonight out there. A big thank you to Scott Andrews and Public Works. Did a great job this season on the Christmas lights and the snowflakes. They look great this year, Scott. They really did. It was obvious they were checked off and repaired as necessary. And the attention to detail paid to keeping them up and running. It was clearly evident. So well done. Looking ahead, we need to be thinking about a board retreat within the upcoming weeks. We usually do that sometime in February or March. We have an election coming up this year, as I'm thinking forward. It's unique this year in that all 5 alderman positions plus the mayor are going to be up for election, as I understand it. And this is because our 2 aldermen who were appointed only served, not the remainder of the term that they're filling, but just until the next upcoming election. Okay. And from what I can determine and reading the town charter and whatnot, the last time that the town was faced with an election where all 5 aldermen were elected was in 1991, the year after the town was incorporated. And the way the situation was handled then was that the 3 candidates who got the most votes were elected to serve 4-year terms. And the 4th and 5th place candidates were elected to serve 2-year terms to get things into the balance that we enjoyed all those years where we had an election with 3 and then 2 years later an election with 2. And that eliminates the potential turnover that we're going to see potentially this coming year for a whole board to turn. And I don't think we really want to go that way heading forward. So, you know, my thought is as we work through this, and maybe it's something that we talk about at the board retreat, and certainly, you know, I'd like to hear from the attorney, not necessarily tonight, but what his thoughts are, big picture on this. Is there a way to return the board membership to staggered terms by doing what was done in 1991 with, you know, elected number 5, number 4, number 5 serving 2-year terms, and then we go back to. I don't think it's healthy for the town looking forward for everybody to turn over at one time, Brian.
I agree 100%. Mr. Gilbride and I talked about that for the last couple of months.
Okay.
Given we're a Dillon ruled state, essentially, our authority derives from the power given us by the General Assembly. We were created by a charter. That charter is now given the fact of the resignations and the appointments is going to have to be modified to recalibrate the election cycle. And I don't think that would be controversial at all. And we can seek that legislation immediately.
Do we have to have that in place by a certain date relative to filings and in election processes and procedures?
I would certainly think, short answer is yes. I can't imagine that it would be constitutional for them to even give us a local act that would trump the filings. You want a level playing field for all those who wish to seek office.
Right.
That's my best guess sitting here right now. I have not researched that issue directly. I do not think it would be controversial at all to get that legislation, and there may be an outside chance we can get it before, what's the filing date? July 1.
July 1st.
July 1.
Usually.
And if there's a consensus of the board, I will work with staff and Mr. Gilbride to make that a top priority and see if that's even possible for this upcoming election.
Because we got to get things this year.
I couldn't agree with you more.
But just to be clear, you're still saying that all of the seats would come up for re-election this year and then it would be staggered moving forward.
I think that's what it'd have to be.
Yeah, they all come up. It's a matter of
How long?
does everybody who gets elected in November serve a 4-year term, or do we do number 4 and number 5 serve a 2-year term? So that in 2 years from now, we have another municipal election for 2 seats, which is what they did in 91. Okay.
I mean, ideally you want continuity and you don't want a brand new board every time. So I think smarter minds than mine will help figure that out.
Okay. So I only had one more thing on my alderman's report, and that was I'd like to take this opportunity to wish a very special person a happy birthday. My mother will be celebrating her 90th birthday. She lives on her own. She's completely self-sufficient and can even sometimes be seen occasionally tearing up the streets of her town in her British racing green Mini Cooper. So happy birthday, Mom. Happy birthday. And that's all.
Alderman Rapp?
Just a couple of things. One is that I've had a number of email exchanges and phone calls with a lot of our constituents and appreciate the time. A couple I think I probably got long. I think one of them was an hour and a half conversation. No, but they were good conversations. And I think that one of the issues is there's a lot of information out there that's not totally accurate about what we're doing. And so I think it's very good. I think we need to be very transparent. I wanted to thank all the public work people. I know you guys worked the holidays and stuff just like everybody else. And the other thing too is, and not to get sentimental, but as we say every time we go over the bridge, we live on an island. And I think that I personally and my family are very blessed that we live in this community. I look back at some of the cities that I've lived in, the big cities, and I think about what those people are going through right now. We can still walk on the beach, we can still get outside. We hope that the people here don't get as, affected, the businesses and everything else. And so I think that we are very blessed to be able to live on an island. And that's kind of our mantra as we come across the bridge every time is we live on an island, and we should be very thankful for the things that we have here and the people that work here. So I'm happy New Year.
Alderman Mar?
I didn't have anything in particular. I did want to welcome Sherry. I'm looking forward to working with her. Sorry to see Laura gone, but new year, new personnel. So also to wish everyone a happy new year and hope that it's a good year. Thank you.
So what we need then is a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Bye.
Closed session?
Jim?
Okay.
Matt, can we just